I'm starting the recording. Share my screen. Okay, so just as a reminder, as I told you, I'm Adriana Domenech. I'm the strategy coordinator of EVPA, and I'm one of the members of this Better Incubation project. So we will do is now I do this presentation of 3 minutes of the Better Incubation project, and then we will proceed with the session with Isabel moderating. So in a nutshell, this is a European funded project led by DG Employment. It's a 2 years program that started in 2021, and it's powered by 3 networks, so EBN, Impact Hub, and EVPA. And basically the objective of this program is to foster inclusive and social entrepreneurship in Europe by mobilizing and empowering mainstream business support organizations, so incubators and accelerators with capacities to effectively help social enterprises and potential entrepreneurs from underrepresented groups. So for instance, categories as migrants, refugees, women, people with disabilities, and others. So the idea is to make their business grow, to find a better environment for them to thrive, and to better connect with social investors. So this is why we are here today, to discuss about this collaboration between social investors, and business support organizations. And yeah, and we have one more person here. So as you can see, the activities of the Better Incubation program started with a strong capacity building component with aim to provide business support organizations with capacities on how to better support social enterprises. But now we are carrying out another series of activities more focused on collaboration, on the collaboration dimension. So that's why we have launched these sweet pitches, which are a series of conversations, as you know, between social investors and impact-driven business support organizations that can really give insights and share ideas to help to build this collaboration and to strengthen the pipeline to support social and underrepresented entrepreneurs. So yeah, that's basically what is the program about. So I'm happy to leave the floor now to my colleague Isabel, who is the EVPA's community project manager. She will moderate the session, as you know, and introduce our speaker, Wingee. So thank you, Isabel. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Adriana, and also thank you for presenting the program of Better Incubation, EVPA, and as well this series of Switch Pitch. So as Adriana mentioned, it's a pleasure for me to introduce you to our speaker of today, Wingee Sampaio, who is leading Cartier Women's Initiative, who's also EVPA member. And I will not go too much into detail, not reveal too much, but for those who maybe don't know, it's an international entrepreneurship program. And their aim is really to support and empower women who are impact entrepreneurs and really to drive change and impact. And I also just saw that they celebrate recently their 15th anniversary of work and impact. So congratulations for that. So basically, Wingee will also share about their work and also their experience, how they collaborate with different actors like incubators and accelerators. And afterwards, we will have a time where we can have a conversation where you in the audience, you can also ask questions to dive deeper in that topic and to learn more about the experience of Cartier Women Initiative. But maybe before that, if you would like all just to share in a few words in the chat who you are, where you're from, and what is your organization, please feel free to share it in the chat so we can get to know each other a little bit more. So thank you, Wingee, for being with us today. It's a real pleasure. And we really look forward to our conversation to also learn more about the experience of Cartier Women Initiative. So the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Great. So thank you, Isabel. Thank you, Adrina, for organizing this wonderful gathering. I think actually I would say this type of gathering is precisely why we joined the EVPA. We're looking for other organizations who are also interested in this vision that we share, which is that women can be incredible impact and change leaders in the world. And we are also specifically focused on women impact entrepreneurship from a for-profit business perspective. And so I think this is also a space where it's maybe different than traditional corporate philanthropy. And so I hope to connect with others who are interested in this. So let me give you a quick short overview of what the Cartier Women Initiative is. And as Isabel mentioned, we recently celebrated our 15th year birthday, and now, firmly approaching our sweet 16, essentially. The initiative was started in the year 2006. And for the first 10 years of the initiative, we were more of an award to recognize women entrepreneurs, and we would host an event to acknowledge their work and the contribution. And I would say starting 5 years ago, we took sort of what we have been doing for the first 10 years and tried to figure out if there's more we can do for the space of women impact entrepreneurs. And now our program is really what you have seen in terms of the last 5 years of work, which is to try to grow into a comprehensive program that has 4 main key pillars. The first pillar continues to be our awards, which is sort of how we recognize and identify women impact entrepreneurs in different regions around the world. The second pillar is our fellowship, and this is where we started delivering human capital support that's specifically designed for women impact entrepreneurs to the fellows in our program. And our fellowship is actually divided into 3 phases. It's a 1-year-long program. So for women entrepreneurs who apply to our award, they also get as part of the award not just financial support, but they also get access and a place in this fellowship program. And the fellowship program is divided into 3 phases. The first phase is actually a one-on-one training that specifically identify and address the challenges that the woman impact entrepreneur is facing at that moment, and how we identify what type of support to provide for these women is via our due diligence process. So when someone applied to the Cartier Women Initiative, they undergo a due diligence process with our impact investor and partner, which is Sagana. And from that, they receive a series of feedback from the due diligence. And the due diligence is helpful for us in terms of identifying who is the right person for the fellowship program, but also a wonderful resource and tool for the woman entrepreneur because she has invested time to undergo the due diligence. And so what we wanted to do is help them address the challenges that they're facing as a result from that is revealed from due diligence. And the first phase of the fellowship is specifically designed for that. The second phase of the due diligence, of the fellowship is a scholarship to the INSEAD Women Impact Entrepreneurship Program. And so here, INSEAD is one of our strategic academic partners for the program. And we have created with them a group program that is specifically targeted at women impact entrepreneurs at the phase of scaling. And so this is both a digital as well as in-person a segment that we have developed with INSEAD, and it's the second phase of our fellowship. The third phase of our fellowship is a partnership we have with the Coaching Fellowship. And the Coaching Fellowship is a nonprofit organization based in the US that specifically pairs up executive coaches with women change leaders. And so here we hope to wrap up the whole 1-year fellowship journey with this executive coaching so that the woman can also have a chance to reflect a bit on their leadership, because this 1 year of experience provide them with many resources and etc. And it's one way of consolidating and reflecting on sort of what the next phase of your business and your leadership will hold. So with that, that's the second pillar of our work, the fellowship program. The third pillar of our work is around the community. And so as the Cartier Women Initiative has been around now for 15 editions, and so there's a great opportunity to connect. Firstly and foremost, it's all the fellows from historically of the past. And so many of the fellows to have a chance to really peer mentor, share knowledge sharing with each other, but also all the supporters of women impact entrepreneurs that we have collected over the years are all volunteers that are passionate about women as change leaders. And so this overall community, we try to animate it on a digital basis, but also via in-person gathering in the different regions around the world. And then last but not least is our most recent vertical. It's around thought leadership. I think 3 years ago, when I first take on this role at the Cartier Women Initiative, one key area that I've realized and discovered in this space of women impact entrepreneurship is that there's not a lot of data that quantifies the contribution of women entrepreneurs. And so thought leadership is specifically used to address this area of the need for additional data insights to be collected and to support our overall advocacy for this space. And so we began 2 years ago a partnership with the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, which is the GEM Consortium. It's the longest body of entrepreneurship research available, and they have all along collected the gender cut data to their global survey. However, they have never received sufficient funding to publish it on a consistent basis. And so very fortunately, 2 years ago, us, along with the World Bank, along with Smith College, and also the Calicut Fund, started funding this women's report of the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor so that it has a chance to see the light of day every year. And so this is our first foray into thought leadership, and this GEM data has informed us in terms of our own program design and how to better serve entrepreneurs globally, and how to really be strategic about the future direction of our program and our work and our collaborations. And so, so those are the 4 pillars of our work across award, fellowship, community, and thought leadership. The 3 main resources that we provide women entrepreneurs are financial capital, human capital, and social capital. And so the financial capital being the grant that we provide them when they apply for the awards program. And we are also very diligent in figuring out how we can continue our financial support journey with women impact entrepreneurs. The second is around the human capital. And so this is really where all of our fellowship comes to light. And last but not least is the social capital. And so this is where we're trying to build connections amongst the community of supporting the women entrepreneurs so that their access to an important social network is elevated. And also amongst our work within delivering social capital, we also leverage the influence that Cartier has as an organization with media to bring greater support in terms of media coverage to the women entrepreneurs work. And so this is how our program is able to deliver to them financial, social, and human capital. And maybe I'll just end my introduction of what Cartier Women Initiative is about with what our findings is from our community reunion. Because during our community reunion, we had a chance to ideate on the future of the Cartier Women Initiative. And from this, what we have identified overwhelmingly with a lot of conviction and votes, if you will, from our community, is this idea that the future direction of the initiative should really be focused on 2 main things. One is additional capital that is missing within the woman impact entrepreneurship space. And the second is greater community connections globally. And so I would say our strategic initiatives, if you will, for the next 5 years will probably be very focused around these 2 areas. And we certainly would love to talk to other EVPA, EBAN, and Impact Hub members who are also interested in pursuing these 2 directions so that we can join forces and build more collaborations around that. So with that, I hand it back to you, Isabel.
Thank you, Wingee, for sharing about your work. And also what is really interesting is how over the years it has developed to come up to the 4 pillars, and also with a focus on thought leadership and enabling also the enhancement of connections and networks for these women. So thank you, Wingee, for sharing this introduction. Now we turn to the audience. So if you have any questions for a speaker today related to Cartier Women Initiative or more in detail concerning collaboration, feel free to share it in the chat so we can continue our conversation on the topic. But maybe in the meantime, while the audience thinks about this, if I may ask a question, how do you select these business support organizations? I was particularly interested to see what is the most important for you when you work with them, when you select them and collaborate with them.
Sure. So every year we have a call for application cycle, and I think Natia just asked this question of how do we apply to the Cartier Women Initiative, and so we have a call for application cycle, and our call for application actually just closed in end of June, and so it began in mid-May and lasted until end of June, so a 6-week period, and so there was an application online that you can complete to apply to the initiative. We are looking for businesses that have had at least 1 year of traction, so the ability to be able to show product market fit, but have been around for less than 6 years. They have to also have had raised less than 2 million in dilutive funding, and they are woman-led and serving one of the UN SDG goals. And so at the moment, so these are our primary criteria for the regional program. And so we have 11 award and program categories, and 9 of them are regional based. The 10th one is on science and technology pioneer. And that category is a category that's about 2 years old now. And we developed that category specifically in collaboration with Hello Tomorrow to acknowledge and support women deep tech entrepreneurs. And so for that category itself, we actually measure the maturity of the business differently. And you have to be creating a business that is also serving one of the UN SDG goals, but it is leveraging deep tech. And so many years of research and development and also potentially patent and IP specifically around the technology or science. And as a result, it does not have a year limit to that program, and it does not have a revenue requirement to that program. And so in that program, we are looking for, instead, we use the technology readiness index, which is a index level that's created between Hello Tomorrow and BCG. And I think it leveraged NASA methodology, and you have to have a technology readiness level of 4, which means that you basically have a prototype and then you have created a few commercial pilots. And then the last category to talk about is the diversity, equity, inclusion, which is a pilot category for us. And we just started it this year. And this is specifically our first cause-based program category. So the prior categories are, the first 9 is all based on basically women impact entrepreneurs globally. 10th one is on deep tech entrepreneurs, women deep tech entrepreneurs. And then this last one is actually specifically an entrepreneur trying to leverage business as a force to change diversity, equity, and inclusion. And here, these entrepreneurs are specifically focused on this specific cause, and it's open actually to all genders, so beyond just women. And so it's our first year piloting this category, and we're excited to see sort of who will apply to this initiative. And so maybe also a word about why we created these eligibility criteria, because they are actually created with a lot of intentions, right? For us, the biggest challenge for the women impact entrepreneurs is what is in our space called the missing middle. And more specifically within Cartier Women Initiative, I would describe as trying to solve for the second half of the missing middle. And the missing middle is basically this idea that actually when you look at the research around global entrepreneurship, and you see this actually also amongst the GEMS data, there is actually many women starting businesses. However, for some reason, they stay small. And or they stay local, and so there's what is known as an internationalization gap for women entrepreneurs. And so even if they wanted to grow their business internationally, they don't have the resources or the network to grow. And so for us, this is why we're focusing on the missing middle, which is this idea that in order for the woman impact entrepreneur to grow and scale their business, they're in need of capital and additional resources to bridge this gap. And what we find is actually like there is resources for the woman entrepreneur after, let's say, Series A funding. And then there's resources for the woman entrepreneur, or they are able to bootstrap because they are nimble and savvy up to, let's say, the seed stage of entrepreneurship. But between the seed stage and Series A, there's this big gap for women entrepreneurs, and depending on which region around the world you are in, the gap is more or less severe, and the gap can be so many years and many years more for a woman than it is for a man. And so at the Cartier Women Initiative, we're trying to, well, one, build a community amongst women entrepreneurs who are facing the same challenge, so that they have each other at least as a sisterhood and support network to lean on, but also to try to provide them with resources that they could bridge this gap. And that's what our work has been focused around. And this is why the eligibility criteria is specifically designed in this way to segment for this group of entrepreneurs. And I will tell you, actually, from a program design perspective, I'm thinking also a lot on how to make it more granular so that we can be a bit more targeted in reaching to the women entrepreneurs who are specifically in this phase.
Thanks a lot for sharing more insights on this, and especially on the why that you mentioned and how you aim to fill that missing middle. We have another question from Adriana, who says, I would like to know more about how the due diligence of the fellowship program is carried out. Do you provide personal support for each applicant, or what kind of guidance is offered at this stage? So it's more into the different steps and details of this due diligence program.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think due diligence is a really interesting way of reflection for the women entrepreneurs, because many times, you know, some of them may have first raised some money from friends and family, and so they didn't have to go through a very intensive due diligence process yet, right? Some may have already, but majority, I would say, of the ones that land in our program have only done some due diligence, but not to the extent of what I would say when you raise an institutional Series A round of funding would require. And so via the due diligence process, what happens is the woman entrepreneur who applies to our program, they first complete the application process, right? And from the application, then we work with our due diligence partners to review them and select the top 10 applicants. And the top 10 goes through the first phase of due diligence. And in this due diligence, we essentially evaluate the woman entrepreneur via the various categories of selection. And this includes financial sustainability, it includes impact, it includes market sizing and research, it includes how they plan to execute on their business, and it also includes an element of their team and leadership abilities. And this due diligence process hopefully helps them basically review these areas of their business at an early phase from someone who is evaluating them, and then and this evaluation hopefully can also help them with sort of, if you will, a dry run before your actual real investor pitch, right? I mean, here they're applying to a program, so there's something at stake, but relative to, I would say, later on when they're actually raising the true round of capital, there's a lot of things that they could think about. And of course, partnering with Sagana has been terrific, because Sagana is an impact investor themselves, and so it is really sort of like a real investor looking at you, right? And hopefully via these due diligence, we're also able to create investor introduction and connections for the woman entrepreneur. And so that's how the due diligence is carried out. And actually there's two phases. The first round is for the top 10 applicants, and the second round is actually for the top 5 applicants. And so so I would say our due diligence is actually really quite in depth. And should you make it into the program to be one of the top 3, and so for every program category, we select 3 entrepreneurs. And so every year, so for this upcoming year, actually, our cohort will be 33 entrepreneurs. And for these 33 entrepreneurs, if the entrepreneurs is open to it, we are also happy to share the due diligence result with investors that they later on have meetings with. And this is, again, another way for us to leverage the resources that we have invested in the woman entrepreneur to create, hopefully, to basically decrease the friction that they have with building investor network, relationships, and etc. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Wingee. I have another question from Michaela. Your approach is indeed holistic and global. Are there any challenges you have identified which are specific for the region of Europe? And is your program adjusted to regional differences in entrepreneurship support?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Challenges specific to Europe, I would say, so first of all, because we are a global program, I really try to identify the elements of our work that make sense to do on a global basis. We are, at the end of the day, a small team within Cartier. And actually, Michaela, like we are sort of unique in the sense that, you know, many corporates, they do philanthropic projects as an independent foundation and etc. But actually, I consider myself an entrepreneur support organization that is set up as a department in Cartier. And so, which makes us a little bit unique in this sense. And so I would say, when I first thought about the white space, if you will, that we should be in and where we could actually add value to the entrepreneurship ecosystem, I did not believe that actually specific regional program would be of that much value. I would say in the next phase of our initiative, we are looking at more regional work that's in partnership with all of the local Cartier offices in each of like North America, Europe, China, and East Asia. But in the first 5 years for me, I felt like it was it was best to focus on the pieces that are global and that are common to all of the women entrepreneurs. And this is how we sort of crafted the program we have now. And I think in the next 5 years, the pieces of our work that will be more regional, that will be more tailored, would be more the community building part, because I do believe that the in-person regional connections is really valuable to people. And interestingly, actually, both for North America and Europe, I would describe the communities there as both, yes, there's local entrepreneurs who are in need of support, but the community development there is also communities of impact investors and impact supporters that can fund all of the other regions of the world, like Africa, Southeast Asia, and etc. So I would say those are the areas of our work that we're leaning more towards. In terms of the entrepreneurs in Europe themselves, they the challenges that they share with us, I would describe as similar as the other woman impact entrepreneurs. And maybe because as a woman, I think the access to capital is a challenge everywhere. Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe Michaela, you want to say something?
No, I thank you for Wingee for explaining. I think your approach makes sense, and I would have a second question if I may, because we had the pleasure and opportunity to host you during our community of practice for women. As you know, Better Incubation project is also running communities of practice where we put together business support organizations, experts, and entrepreneurs. There are 5 of them, and one is specifically focused on women. And there is also my colleague Chiara, who just joined us, and she's running this focus group right now. But one of the the major, I would say, findings of the focus group, because it was based on experiential learning and basically harvesting ideas from these experts, was that one of the biggest challenges that women entrepreneurs are facing is actually mental health and also work-life balance, because they need to, of course, balance their family duties with their entrepreneurial efforts. And my question is, if this is something you are addressing or you are, considering to address?
Yes, it is. And I would say historically, 3 years ago, we tried to address it more in an actual, I would say, mental wellness segment of our fellowship. And so it was, I think, it had positive feedback, but a very low participation rate. Yes, which was sort of surprising to us, because we felt like it's an important area for women, and I think if you look at the global entrepreneurship monitors finding also, they will say women entrepreneurs are faced with this triple burden, right? And the fact of family being the primary parent basically is a big challenge for women. And so then after that initial attempt of trying it, we decided to do it in a different way. And this is actually one of the motivation around the third phase of the fellowship program with the coaching fellowship with the executive leadership coaching. And so for us, like me, it's not the same as the initial try of the mental wellness, right? Because the initial mental wellness was much more around like, you know, and we had it during our in-person segment of the fellowship program. And so basically, you know, for that 1 week, everyone would come for meditation and also basically techniques to de-stress and clear your mind. And so we had an in-person coach, and even with the in-person coach, we had a low participation rate, even though the people who participated said it was really helpful. And then of course, after the 1 week practice, and you know, thereafter there was sort of like a digital component to it. And while everyone felt it was like a really great way of clearing the mind, it was you know, not very highly participated. And so this is why then I try to opt for something that is more around executive coaching, because then during the executive coaching period, you at least also have someone to be a sounding board specifically around your own leadership and around yourself on the individual. And but I hope to bring it back in some day, like, you know, this idea of you know, actually what my medication coach call mental hygiene, Wingee. You need to practice mental hygiene. You know, it's like brushing your teeth and flossing. So, but it's hard. I think that, and that fundamentally is the thing, right? Like, I think we're not making time specifically to do this. And it's, yeah, so when it's important, yeah. As a woman, we need to prioritize that.
I like the expression of mental hygiene. It's a good reminder. Thanks for sharing. Welcome, Chiara, as well. So if anyone in the audience has any further questions, feel free to share it in the chat. I might have also another question. What is your recommendation for those business support organizations in how they can better prepare to be investment ready? Yeah, what do you recommend and suggest? And maybe also in the same time, maybe would you have any recommendation for the impact measurement and management, how it is needed? Do you see if there's a lack or how it can be improved?
Yeah, I answer the second question first, because that's much more straightforward, I would say. The impact measurement for a for-profit early stage entrepreneurship business, I think there's a few things that entrepreneurs should be aware of. One is it will change. I feel like a lot of times when entrepreneurs that comes to our program, they really worry about committing to a metric, because they feel like, oh, you know, once I commit to a metric, that should, you know, be the way. And so as a result, they're hesitant to commit to an impact metric. But actually, in reality, if there was one thing that you should feel very comfortable about, is that as your business pivot and evolve and etc., the impact measure should evolve along with it, just like how you're setting your KPIs. I wouldn't say impact metrics is that different than setting KPIs for your business. And ideally that they're set in the same fashion and they are hand in hand with your other commercial objectives. And so it's, so there's that first, I would say, that is really important around impact measurement for a for-profit early stage business. I also think it's the second thing I would mention around that is just try to keep it amazingly simple, just amazingly simple. Because as an early stage businesses, you know, like there's just, you know, a million things that you always have to handle, and making it to be very complex or granular in a way where it actually is very difficult for you to capture on a consistent basis or count, it actually is, I think, counterproductive. So ideally, it's something that very easily from your regular commercial reporting already will give you the direction of it. And while it could be better in so many ways, probably sticking to a simple, clear, easily repeatable metric is better than trying to have something that's really complex. And then I would say the third piece of advice around that area is try to move beyond testimonial. You know, I think sometimes we still see like many women entrepreneurs very capturing many stories, and I think the stories are really important. You know, I think that will help you understand your user, your beneficiary significantly better. But in the end of the day, when you're trying to scale your business, it's important to have metrics, because individual story shows that you have impact, but you need scalable impact to raise the capital. And so this is where metrics become really critical. And so I would say impact measurement around those areas is, those are the three things I would really focus on in terms of advice for entrepreneurs. It's actually the most commonly asked question amongst our call for application process. During our call for application, we have a lot of workshops around our program and etc. And we use it as a way of capacity building with all of the women entrepreneurs who are interested in our work. And oftentimes they ask a lot of questions around impact measurement because they're worried that, oh, there's a right answer. And it's like, oh, actually, no. And we expect probably 6 months after you enter our program, you may change it already, what the metrics is. And that's completely okay, you know? So and then your first question around access to capital. I think it's, what can I say specifically around that? That would be helpful. For us, our work, you know, we were an awards program, and so we provide a grant to the women entrepreneurs. And I think at the early phases of the women entrepreneurship business, it still makes sense. But now at the moment, we're trying to evaluate in the future directions. And these are some ideas we're working with on now. For example, a debt fund that specifically support women entrepreneurs in terms of working capital. And so, you know, once they pass through this initial phase of the fellowship with us, as they're growing and scaling their business and generating revenue, how to then continue to empower their work and their impact to show more traction. And so I think a loan fund is something that can help the woman entrepreneurs show longer their traction, maintain their business and grow it in a way then other investors who can come in and looking at the woman entrepreneur in terms of their track record, you know, would make sense, right? Another thing that we're thinking about is also this idea of potentially impact grants that are multi-year. And so for women entrepreneurs who comes into our program after their fellowship, they're delivering consistently more and more impact. And maybe actually some women entrepreneur decided in the future that they don't want to raise institutional capital for whatever reason. I mean, that's another business decision. This might be another way for us to think about how to support the entrepreneurs in our program. So those are some ways of thinking about it, and also is I think about the entire capital structure, right? So debt and then additional grants, and the last piece, which is the one that is the hardest to solve for, is around equity, and this piece is probably challenging to solve for because we are we're set up as a department within a company. And so this is the piece where I think for us, if we were to move towards this direction, we would be looking for some collaboration with others who are also looking at this on a global basis and specifically around women entrepreneurship. So yeah, if anyone comes to mind, let us know. I'm in search of that other entity also.
Thank you for the.
Do you mind if I ask a follow-up question from the phone line?
Sure.
Perfect. I'm Colleen Abbott from JP Morgan Global Philanthropy. I sit in London and oversee our EMEA small business philanthropy, and it's been really interesting listening. We do quite a bit on women and diverse founders, but specifically underserved entrepreneurs. So we've typically haven't gone too deep into impact entrepreneurs for a couple different reasons, but there's actually a bit of a lack of diversity and underserved entrepreneurs within that founders segment group. But I was curious how many women you support through this program, and for you, how do you measure success? What are you looking for in terms of what you're aiming to achieve? Just for us, I think kind of proving success of our programmatic work, you know, it's always a challenge when it's so different across so many different initiatives. But for this one specifically, it would just be interesting to know the size and how you measure success.
Sure, yes. Oh, great. Colleen, I met one of your colleagues actually in Asia, in AVPN, actually. So oh, her name escapes me at the moment, but yeah, she shared with me a bit about JP Morgan Philanthropic, all the great work you guys are doing too. So in terms of your question, we have, for this upcoming edition, 33 entrepreneurs in our program. So our program is actually very, focus on depth than breadth, because actually I have of course come across many other programs that are more focused on high number of entrepreneurs and providing them additional capacity and grants and etc. Ours is, I would say, much more focused on this idea of depth of each of the program participants, and I would say also our program is not a huge size also, right? I've seen other entrepreneurship programs that are more trying to target like 1,000 entrepreneurs and etc. And then in terms of how we measure our impact, we actually have our impact report of the last 15 years on our website. So feel free to refer to that for specific metrics. However, I would say I would describe to you on a maybe more theoretical and what we were thinking originally when we sort of were working on the impact report. First is that I would say there's clear that there's sort of two levels of impact. The first is the direct impact between Cartier Women Initiative and specifically the women impact entrepreneurs. And then the second level impact is actually the woman impact entrepreneurs to their respective community. And I would say the second level of impact, the indirect impact, is not something that we capture, I would say, consistently with a common metric, because they vary significantly across all of the UN SDG goals, and they are very different. The first bucket of impact, which is the direct impact of ourselves to the women entrepreneurs, specifically probably similar to what you described as them being an underserved community of entrepreneurs. There we capture both our impact around sort of the size of their business growth, and we learned a lot and leveraged a lot the GALI survey, the global accelerator learning initiative that was started by the Andes program, and they have a standardized survey. We didn't use all of the survey questions, but we did take the ones that we felt were most relevant for our work, so that we can try to find ways of benchmarking, if you will, participants in our program versus what this global set of data and questions sets out. And so I would say from a entrepreneurship program perspective, we learned a lot from that. We also tried to learn, I would say, in terms of impact metrics and survey from the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, who also have standardized questions specifically to entrepreneurs globally. And here we tried to learn from them on the growth of entrepreneurship metrics. Overall, I would describe it as the direct impact is, rather our direct impact to the entrepreneur herself as an individual leader, and then specifically to their business in terms of their business revenue and people growth and etc. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
And
it's helpful
for sharing the impact.
That you have the 15-year impact report. I see it now. Thank you.
Yeah, but it's a tough effort, I must say, even for because in our program we now have around 300 women entrepreneurs, and we have been trying to think about and we did the 15-year impact survey just last year, and now in the upcoming years we're trying to figure out like how best to take this impact measurement work to the next level, because one thing about like survey collection is it's you have a few great quantitative metrics, if you will, maybe not great, you have a few collectible data points, which is important. But at the same time, I think we are also considering moving to this survey question interview format. So more to come on that.
Thanks a lot, Wingee, for saying about the impact in itself. Maybe before handing over to Adriana, we can cover a last question, which I saw from Michaela. It is, what advice would you give to business support organizations on how to communicate their programs and support to women target group, but also wider community and in an inclusive way?
How to communicate their program? I think it's interesting, you know, in our call for application cycle of the Cartier Women Initiative, we partner with many entrepreneurship support organizations around the world who's doing this work. And I have to say, for every country where we have had a partner, we have received a solid number of application, and also via that opportunity, there was some capacity building with the local community. And so it was really a great way of collaborating with, you know, for someone who's a global, like, you know, whose remit is global, to be able to have these, right? And so that was really helpful. And so I would say the cross collaboration and pollination is really important. And in fact, I sort of wish there was, and for us, we collected these different entrepreneurship organizations over the years by doing ecosystem analysis of each of these, like, you know, entrepreneurship hubs, and we, you know, and we tried to target where we don't have you know, where we know historically we haven't received a lot of application, and so there was a bit of targeting because we cannot build a relationship with every country. And so I wish there was some sort of publicized directory, and maybe this is what we should do, like a crowd-sourced directory of everyone, you know, because then we can really share opportunity in a much more systematic way. And then specifically around women, or even community on an inclusive way, like, it's interesting. I think for women specifically, we try to be active in all gender programs. So we actually don't specifically go look for the other women organization. We try to look for, like, you know, and then and for us, this was a really meaningful way of also ensuring like greater inclusivity in these all gender programs that are blooming in it all around the world, right? And so I can give you a great example. You know, our collaboration with Hello Tomorrow was really wonderful because they all along knew that they had many women deep tech entrepreneurs. Like, in fact, when we looked at their statistics before we created a collaboration with them, they were, I think, 30 or 40% of the past participants in their various programs were women. And they knew that they were in need of some special, you know, community to create greater bonding and support for each other. And so, and we were sort of the powering force to do that. And I think this is sort of a great example of how taking our work to a all gender organization actually creates like, you know, a really great in-depth impact. Then let's say if we found another woman tech only organization to collaborate with, right? So yeah. And so I think that's something I would mention. And then when you talk about a wider community in an inclusive way, this year, I really learned a lot because there was an applicant actually who raised in one of our program category. Rather, our program was designed in a way where someone with disability can participate in. And I have to say, it was such a moment because, like, you know, I you know, just gave me a pause to think about, you know, if I was someone who was hearing impaired, how I would participate in the Cartier Women Initiative. And if I was someone, you know, vision impaired, how would I participate in the Cartier Women Initiative? And then actually led me to sort of reevaluate every, you know, collaboration and partnership we have, right? Rather, it was with EaSI, the coaching fellowship, and Sagana, you know, have we designed these relationships in a way where actually can be all inclusive, right? And so yeah, big humbling moment of, you know, a new work stream that was created, but of course our answer was going to be yes. And so it's just how to make it happen as opposed to, you know, when to make it happen, right? So yeah, so it's I think these are sort of also new ways for us to learn and how to evolve to become more inclusive and more, yeah, supportive of everyone.
Thank you so much for this interesting insight, and also the example that you just shared about the learnings you also went through and to become more inclusive. And so thank you also in general for everything you've shared with us about how Cartier Women Initiative is working, the processes, but also the different steps with the fellowship, the thought leadership, and also the next steps that you've shared about for the next 5 years, and in general, the work of collaboration. So we thank you so much for your time and for sharing. And now I hand over to Adriana.
Yes, so we just have 1 minute left, so this is going to be really quick. I just wanted to share with you the rest of the pitches that we have planned. So as you can see, we have 3 pitches left in September. So you are all welcome to join. And then this month, we also have the Better Incubation Contest, which is the contest that aims to select 3 scalable solutions to social and environmental challenges developed by entrepreneurs belonging to one of the Better Incubation target groups, as I was explaining before. So the deadline for application is the 22nd of August, and winners will be coached and supported in terms of networking and publicity. So for instance, they will be pitching at the EVPA's Impact Week in front of social investors. So here in December, we have the final Better Incubation event, and yeah, we really hope to see you all there as well. So that's it. Thank you very much, Wingee, and all of you for your contributions. I will stop now the recording, and yeah, I hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wingee.
Thank you very much.
Interesting.
Thank you very much.
You.
Everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.